Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a topic that feels incredibly personal, but has these huge global implications. The security of our DNA data.
Hmm.
I mean, think about it, your genetic code, it holds secrets about your ancestry, your health, even your whole family tree.
Everything.
But what happens when that really intimate, unchangeable information gets exposed?
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we're pulling from quite a stack of sources. There's the detailed Wikipedia account on the 23andMe leak,
Hmm.
insights from The Guardian and ACES International on, why DNA is becoming such a hot target for identity thieves.
Okay.
We've also got some ethical considerations from darlyeldridge.com, and then some really cutting-edge research on DNA encryption from Oxford Academic.
Right, so our mission today is really to unpack the fascinating and honestly pretty alarming realities around genomic data security.
Hmm.
We'll look at a major real-world breach, kind of a wake-up call, then explore why your DNA is, well, uniquely vulnerable.
Yeah, different from other data.
Exactly. Then we'll dig into the serious consequences, and finally, look at the legal and tech solutions popping up to try and protect this fundamental part of who we are.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's kick off with that concrete example, the one that really put this on the map. October 2023, 23andMe reports a big data breach. What actually happened there?
So basically, a hacker going by the name Golem claimed they'd grabbed profile info from millions of 23andMe users.
Millions.
Yeah. The company later confirmed that data from about 6.9 million users was illicitly accessed. And what's really striking here is that this hit nearly half of their reported 14 million customers. Huge scale.
Wow, that's a massive number. And this wasn't just random data, right? It sounds like it was really specific stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Highly specific. We're talking names, profile photos, birth year, location, family surnames, grandparents' birthplaces, ethnicity estimates. And crucially, mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome DNA haplogroups. Those trace your maternal and paternal lines. Plus, links to external family trees, anything in the optional About section.
Right.
And here's a really disturbing detail. Batches of this data were advertised on hacking forums, specifically listed as Ashkenazi Jews and ethnically Chinese users,
Oof.
which, immediately sparked fears about targeted attacks.
Yeah, that's chilling. Okay, so it's one thing that the data's out there, but how did they get in? And what did 23andMe do right away?
Well, the company admitted it was down to credential stuffing,
Ah,
which is basically hackers using passwords and logins stolen from other website breaches. So if you reused your password...
so vulnerable.
Exactly.
Right.
Initially, 23andMe told TechCrunch they were, quote, reviewing the data, and they temporarily shut down features like the DNA relatives tool. But their internal investigation concluded there was, quote, no evidence of a cybersecurity incident on the company's IT systems.
Wait, so...
So effectively, they blamed users for not changing their passwords, for reusing them.
Huh. So they basically put the responsibility right back onto their customers. Your fault, not ours.
That was certainly the interpretation many people had, yeah.
This whole thing really makes you think, though, about the data itself. Why is DNA data often called the worst type of personally identifiable information? Why is it such a prime target?
Well, connecting it to the bigger picture, it boils down to permanence.
Permanence.
Yeah. Unlike, say, your social security number or credit card, which, maybe you can change or cancel your DNA.
Right.
That's fixed. It's immutable.
Right.
So if your genetic information gets compromised, the consequences are, well, forever. That's the key difference.
Permanent. That is a chilling thought. So what makes this unchangeable data so uniquely valuable, then, to criminals or other groups?
Well, your DNA holds incredibly deep insights. We're talking health predispositions, physical traits, your ethnicity, disease risks, maybe even behavioral tendencies.
Wow.
It's been called an incalculably powerful tool, a veritable treasure trove for all sorts of entities. Advertisers, insurance companies, pharmaceutical developers.
There's a drug company.
Exactly. Like in 2018, GlaxoSmithKline invested $300 million in 23andMe, specifically for the rights to use its customers' genetic data for research.
So you have these huge companies potentially making massive profits from this data, while the people who actually provided it, they're not seeing much of that value, are they? Seems like a very unequal swap.
Precisely. One source described consumers as being significantly undervalued in this unequal exchange.
Yeah.
And there's another critical vulnerability, the family connection.
Right, you mentioned that.
If your relative's DNA info leaks, some of your identifiable information is also compromised. We saw this play out dramatically with the Golden State Killer case.
Oh yeah, they found him through a relative on a genealogy site, right?
Exactly. Through a distant relative on a public database. And estimates suggest, get this, a database with just 2% of a target population can identify a third cousin or closer for over 99% of people.
99%. Wow. There's a quote from one of our sources: "The golden age of anonymity is now past." That really hits home here.
It really does.
So, beyond identity theft, what are some of the bigger, maybe more insidious risks if this kind of data gets into the wrong hands?
Well, you've got the threat of genetic discrimination. Think about employers maybe not hiring you because of a predisposition to a disease.
Or insurance companies raising your rates.
Exactly. Or even governments using it for surveillance. And then there's this newer, frankly, terrifying threat. Researchers have warned about malicious code written into DNA sequences.
Wait, what? Code in DNA?
Yeah, code that could potentially infect the computers analyzing the DNA. It's like bridging biological and digital security in a way we've never really conceived of before.
That's mind-bending.
And scientists also warn that publicly available DNA research could be misused for surveillance, manipulation, or even, bioterrorism.
Okay, that's a lot to take in. So, facing all these potential consequences, what did this breach actually mean for 23andMe and, more importantly, for the millions of users whose data was exposed?
Well, unsurprisingly, it triggered immediate legal scrutiny. Class action lawsuits started piling up.
I bet.
Some users filed in California, alleging things like negligence, breach of implied contract, invasion of privacy, unjust enrichment. Standard stuff in these cases, but applied to DNA. Then a separate class action, filed in January 2024, specifically called out 23andMe for supposedly failing to tell customers of Chinese and Ashkenazi Jewish heritage that their data was bundled into those specially curated lists being sold on the dark web.
Ah, yes, those specially curated lists. That detail still sounds so sinister. It must have really amplified the concern.
It absolutely did. The lawyers involved expressed worries these lists could be used as a hit list, potentially by state actors like, quote, Chinese intelligence agencies, targeting dissidents. One attorney really hammered the point home, saying this incident represents a total paradigm shift when it comes to the implications of a data breach because of the nature of DNA.
A paradigm shift. So how did the regulators, the official bodies, react to this?
Well, Connecticut's Attorney General jumped in, demanding answers, and asserted that at least 1 million profiles were actually sold on the black market.
1 million sold. Okay.
And then there was a joint investigation by Canadian and UK privacy commissioners. Their conclusion, 23andMe, quote, didn't have adequate data protections and ignored warning signs.
Ouch.
And following that, the UK's Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, slapped them with a fine of 2.31 million GBP.
Okay, so real financial consequences too. Beyond the legal heat and the fines, how did this hit 23andMe's business, their market standing, and what changes did they actually make?
Well, their market value took a nosedive. Went from something like $3.5 billion in 2021 down to roughly $300 million.
Oh, steep drop.
Yeah. Post-breach, they did implement mandatory two-factor authentication by default and forced password resets for everyone. Standard procedure after a breach, really.
Better late than never, I suppose.
True. But then they also did something pretty controversial. In December 2023, they updated their terms of service, giving users only 30 days to opt out of a class action waiver.
A class action waiver, so basically making it harder for people to sue them collectively.
Exactly. Critics slammed it as a, quote, desperate attempt to dissuade and deter from suing.
Okay, so given these huge risks and the fallout, what's being done now, both legally and maybe technologically, to better protect our genetic information? It feels like something has to change.
You're right. There's definitely a push. We're seeing a whole flurry of legislative activity, especially in the U.S.
Okay, like what?
Well, for instance, Montana passed SB 163. It kicks in October 2025, and it amends their Genetic Information Privacy Act. It clarifies things like using de-identified data for research and rules around clinical trial consent. Small steps, but important ones.
Okay, state level, what about those national security worries we talked about, the foreign adversary angle?
Yeah, that's getting attention too. Texas passed HB 130, the Texas Genomic Act of 2025.
That's his name.
Right. It specifically aims to stop foreign adversaries. They list China, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Russia, Venezuela from accessing or storing Texans' genome sequencing data within their borders.
Interesting. So data localization, almost.
Kinda, yeah. Florida did something similar, though a bit narrower, with SB 786. And federally, there's the Don't Sell My DNA Act, introduced in May 2025, focusing on bankruptcy law,
Okay.
and also the Genomic Data Protection Act, or GDPA, which specifically targets those direct-to-consumer genetic testing companies like 23andMe.
So it's a patchwork, really. States and federal government trying to catch up.
It is. It definitely highlights the regulatory gaps that still exist for this very unique type of data.
Okay, that covers the law side. But what about technology? Can tech itself offer, I don't know, a better lock for our DNA data? Seems like innovation is really needed here.
Absolutely. And this is where things get really fascinating. There's this emerging field called DNA encryption.
DNA encryption, like encrypting the DNA itself.
Kind of, yeah. New research, just out April 2025 in National Science Review, proposes what they call next-generation DNA encryption. And the key is introducing unnatural base pairs, UBPs, into the genetic alphabet.
Unnatural base pair. Okay, you lost me slightly. How does adding weird letters to DNA make it secure?
Okay, think of the normal DNA alphabet, A, T, C, G, right?
Right.
They've figured out how to synthesize and use additional artificial letters. By incorporating these UBPs, they've created a multi-level encryption system.
Yeah.
Basically, messages stored in DNA using these UBPs become unreadable by standard sequencing machines.
Ah, okay, the standard machines don't recognize the new letters.
Exactly. Plus, they developed an algorithm, the IM codec, which encrypts the data into key sequences and information sequences. This compresses the data and hides patterns. So it's like embedding a secret code within the DNA strand itself.
And you need a key to read it.
Yes, but not just any key. It's often a specific chemical compound, one of those unnatural bases, that acts as the trigger to even allow the message sequence to be read or amplified. They call it bioorthogonal information storage. The message is hidden unless you have the specific biological key.
So you're literally hiding secret messages inside DNA, and you need a special chemical key to unlock it.
Yeah.
Have they actually done this? Like, for real?
They have. The researchers successfully encrypted and then decrypted messages. They used the D-Day message, June 6 Invasion Normandy, as a test.
Wow.
And they did it not just in vitro, in a test tube, but also in vivo. They stored the encrypted message inside living E. coli bacteria.
Inside bacteria. That's incredible.
It is. And the system's designed to work with existing commercial DNA synthesis and sequencing tech. You just need the specific unnatural bases and what they call a bridge base for decryption.
And the amount of data you can store, it must be huge, right? DNA is tiny.
The storage density is phenomenal. Their IM codec algorithm achieved up to 9.16 bits per nucleotide in tests using video data. Which means it's better than many current digital storage systems. So connecting this back, you could potentially store highly sensitive data, encrypted, in an incredibly small, biologically stable space.
So this isn't just about stopping breaches anymore. It's like pioneering a totally new, maybe even unhackable way to store information.
That seems to be the potential, yeah. It could really shift how we think about securing sensitive data, moving beyond just digital defenses.
Wow. What an incredible deep dive this has been. We've gone from, the stark reality of these big data breaches
Like 23andMe.
to the unique permanent vulnerability of our genetic code, the ripple effects for individuals, for society, and now right to the cutting edge of literally encoding secrets within DNA itself.
Yeah, we've really seen how uniquely valuable and incredibly sensitive this genomic data is, and how that's driving both new laws and these, frankly, revolutionary biotech solutions to try and protect it.
It just completely makes you rethink what personal data even means, doesn't it? It's not just numbers and clicks, it's the actual blueprint of you.
It really is. So consider this thought as we wrap up. In a future where our most intimate information is both this incredibly valuable commodity and a potential vulnerability, could the ultimate frontier of data security not be in silicon chips, but right there in the building blocks of life? What really stands out to you when you think about our most private information being stored, maybe even secured, right down at the molecular level?
That is definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this fascinating deep dive today. We really hope it left you with plenty to ponder about the future of privacy.